April 2025. It was a month where tornadoes left their mark across the country, carving paths of destruction, disrupting lives, and reminding us why spring is no joke when it comes to severe weather. But how did the forecast stack up? In this video, I'm putting my April tornado outlook head-to-head with what actually happened out there. Did the atmosphere play by the book, or did it rewrite the story entirely? We're going to break down the forecast, compare it to reality, and most importantly, look at the lessons we can take into the heart of tornado season. Let's dive in. Let's set the stage. Back on March 30th, I released the April outlook. At that point, the climate drivers were signaling a big seasonal transition. Neutral Enzo was taking hold, which historically can open the floodgates for springtime severe weather. I leaned to some of our trusted historical analogs, particularly 1983 and 2002. Both of those years had eerily similar setups and featured early season tornado activity. The atmosphere had all the ingredients lining up. A slightly positive Arctic oscillation, meaning the polar jet was staying a little north but still active. A slightly negative North Atlantic oscillation, nudging some of the energy into the southern United States. And a neutral Pacific pattern, which tends to open the door for more unpredictable, aggressive troughs. All of this pointed towards a jet stream pattern that would favor severe weather across the southern plains, the Midwest, and the classic Dixie Alley corridor. Based on all that, I painted out 3 forecast zones. The pink zone, where I expected the greatest tornado risk, focusing on Arkansas, Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. The red zone, which expanded that threat into the southern plains, the Midwest, and the lower Mississippi Valley. And the yellow zone, the long shot area, highlighting a more conditional risk up into the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and southern Appalachians. It was shaping up to be a volatile setup on paper, but the atmosphere always has the final say. Fast forward to the end of April, and the atmosphere definitely delivered. We ended up with around 350 confirmed tornadoes, and 37 of those were significant, rated EF2 or stronger. The action peaked in 2 major stretches. April 15th went big, with 92 tornadoes reported. April 16th kept the momentum going with 78 more, and April 27th brought another potent outbreak with 57 tornadoes. When we zoom out, the southern plains lit up, and the Midwest and lower Mississippi Valley took direct hits, right in line with the broad brushstrokes of this forecast. And it wasn't just tornadoes. The month brought plenty of destructive straight-line winds and monster hail events, rounding out what you'd call a textbook spring severe season. But the real question, did the forecast zones hold up under the pressure of the atmosphere? Let's unpack that next. Alright, here's where things get into the weeds. Forecast versus reality. First off, the large-scale pattern behaved almost exactly as forecasted. The southern plains, lower Midwest, and mid-South took center stage, just like the models and analogs suggested. Tornado reports clustered heavily inside the red and yellow forecast zones, which is always a good sign that the pattern recognition was on point. But, and there's always a but, the core pink zone, which I expected to be the hotspot, covering eastern Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, and northwest Arkansas, came in quieter than anticipated. Instead, the storms ramped up farther east, with Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Arkansas stealing the show. Meanwhile, Carolina Alley and the upper Midwest stayed pretty sleepy, matching the forecast expectation for lower-end risk. Some forecast wins. The southern plains and lower Midwest saw strong alignment between forecast zones and actual tornado reports. The Mid-South also delivered, with multiple significant tornadoes during key windows. And where did we miss? That core pink zone underperformed, likely due to some sneaky moisture and instability timing issues that models just didn't pick up well. And while Carolina Alley was forecast to be quiet, the broader eastern United States also ended up much quieter than usual for April. It's one thing to talk patterns and zones, but let's see how it all adds up on the forecast scorecard. Here's the honest breakdown. Pattern recognition, nailed it 9 out of 10. The broad scale drivers set the stage and the atmosphere followed that script closely. Regional accuracy gets a 7. Most of the tornado activity landed inside the forecast zones, but the core risk shifted a bit farther east than I had targeted. Mesoscale awareness? Well, this is where the struggle continues. A 6 out of 10. Local busts in Kansas and Oklahoma were tied to subtle boundaries, marginal setups, and timing issues. Those tricky day-to-day variables that still manage to surprise even the best forecasters. So all in all, I give the April forecast a respectable 7 out of 10. It was a strong pattern-based forecast, but once again, the devil was in the details at the mesoscale level. Spring forecasting continues to be humbling, doesn't it? Let's close it out with the big lessons learned. So here's what April 2025 taught us. First, the forecast did a great job at nailing the large-scale drivers, setting the stage for significant outbreaks across the Southern Plains, Lower Midwest, and Dixie Alley. Second, while most tornadoes occurred inside the forecast zones, the core pink zone missed out, with the action sliding eastward. And as always, mesoscale details made precision forecasting a tough nut to crack. And third, even though mesoscale awareness remains a challenge, the forecast showed solid skill in pattern recognition and regional targeting, especially for what turned out to be a pretty classic late season setup. And now, all eyes turn to May. The May Tornado Outlook is already live on the channel, where I break down the latest analogs, jet trends, and where risk zones may shift as we move into the peak of tornado season. So if you found this recap helpful, go ahead and hit that like button, share it with your storm-loving friends, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next forecast. And hey, I'd love to hear your storm stories or local observations down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next forecast.